What's going on, guys? Good morning. Good morning. What's going on, guys? Good morning. Good morning. You have to excuse me. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather this morning, so just trimmed a bit of UPST in your Roth. Yeah. Well, it was definitely overextended, so. Gonna give everyone about 5 minutes to get in here. Gonna give everyone about 5 minutes to get in here. If you guys could let me know in the live chat if you guys can see the chart and everything okay. Good morning. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Echoing. 1 sec. Awesome. Is that any better, guys? That should be good now. There you go. Awesome. All right, guys, gonna go ahead and get started here on the watch list this morning. I'll just go ahead and go over the overall, the kind of broader market until a few more people get in. Mainly what I'm gonna be looking for, I talked about this on the live, obviously, a few days ago, and then I put it on the watch list this morning. Obviously what I'm gonna be looking for is so yesterday's SPY broke the 20 SMA. I'm going to look for a bounce off the 50 today, which will be that 432 area. As you can see, every single time that we've dipped to this line, it's been bought up pretty heavily, right? So obviously that's going to be just kind of like a logical starting point is where I look for a bounce, right? And we are kind of already flushing hard in pre-market. If we look here, obviously we gapped down overnight about 3 points, consolidating this, 435 range right now, right? So, I want to pay attention. I think we could see one more flush at open, but we are getting pretty close to this line already. So that does make me a little bit more cautious about, entering things to the downside, primarily because, you don't want to chase things down, right? That's not very good risk reward to be, obviously chasing things to the downside. So, what I want to focus on really is, where's our best risk reward in terms of, okay, this is going to provide the best opportunity for us on a daily basis, right? So, yeah, I know it's crazy. The 16th to the 18th is just like a crazy, crazy time period. So, it seems like every single month we've dipped. Somebody said that in the live chat. If you guys are wondering what he's talking about, right? It's been 3 straight months, right? That we've 16th to the 18th have been super volatile, right? So I have to keep that on watch, obviously. But it's been almost like just this very systematic, upside, 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 steep 2 days of red, 3-4 days, 2-3 days of red, right? And then we get that, bounce to all-time highs. So I think this time may be a little bit different in terms of the volatility to the downside, primarily because of the fact that, this is about tapering. The last time I believe we had tapering in terms of Fed buying was in 2013, and it took, a good while before we actually saw the market, truly flush to the downside because of that tapering. So, obviously the big catalyst is now the Fed meets in Jackson Hole next month on the 22nd of September. That's when some people believe they could announce when tapering could begin. It's just really important to watch. But this is what I preach, is that it's not a market to swing. The only thing you can do is just attack every single day in front of you, right? And what you're given. So I think that's why it's really, really important to, focus on that, because the more you get distracted by all the things around you, we start to see that's when things go wrong. So like I said, with SPY, I believe we do have a little bit more downside. Looks like Facebook puts are going to be fantastic if you took those with me. I talked about that yesterday, but it looks like it had a clear gap to fill down to 350. It looks like the chart could see 348, 347 to the downside. Obviously the last time we did that, beginning of this month, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see that. So I think it is important to realize, this is where levels come into play, right? And the only reason I took that trade, is because I saw that there was a gap down to 350. I think if we really, really flush, we could see the 347 level. Obviously, if SPY were to break down even further, right? Say it doesn't hold the 50, right? That's when you have to start looking at, okay, where are my next support levels? Because it correlates, right? When SPY gaps down like that, we see a transitive gap down, obviously on the names that correlate with it, right? So same goes for QQQ, right? I'm just using SPX as an example, right? So when you see this move, right, we have room down to 334 is stronger support, right, on the daily time frame. And sometimes you have to even look on a broader time frame, right? The 334 area is huge for Facebook, right, because there's a lot of room down, right, and not as much support. A lot of people, right, a lot of charts look like this right now. They're just super overextended, and that's why a lot of people think we need to see a correction, in this range, right? Like sub 330 is what I put on the post last night, where I said, hey, this is the point where I'm going to be a buyer, right, on some of these names. And it's because we want to see a correction down to, a healthy level, right? Hold the trend line, obviously, but, a correction down to the healthy level. So 334 would be a huge spot I would look for if we did, see a more severe, market pullback. Like I said, I would look at the 340 puts if we get a break below 347. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for on Facebook. Obviously, I don't want to chase this one off open because we are almost at my target range. If we flush off open, right, I'm going to look for a bounce off of this 350.86 level. I may initially get like a starter on calls. Only reason being, I think if we do see a flush to this level, that will correlate with a flush on SPY to like the 433 area, 433.5, right? And I think that would be the spot where we maybe get an initial bounce up. So I'd be definitely willing to play that bounce off of this level. I don't want to chase the puts down like I mentioned. But, like I mentioned, I think this will be a nice level to at least scalp a bounce, possibly up to the 355 level, right, where we gap down overnight to this 353 level. And then obviously the level above that would be here. What you want to watch for, right, is if we do see a bounce off of 350.86 and we bounce, you want to watch the 353 level carefully, the 353.50 level, because that's our pre-market high, right? So we could very well bounce and then reject that, which would be a fantastic opportunity to get back into puts because, you know, that continues the downward momentum, right? And that would obviously be a more drastic move, and that's why we need to watch SPY closely today. The SPX is going to be crucial, right, to us, you know, where we're gonna go today, right? So, outside of Facebook, you guys kind of know the levels there at this point. I don't think we'll see a drastic enough bounce to see the 358 area, which is obviously definitely a bearish signal. But, you know, like I mentioned, 350.86 is my first spot. You could say 350.50, you know, at the low point, but 350.86, I'll probably take a starter on some calls. But then if we reject this area again, right, the 352, 353 area, that would be your signal to go short again, right? That would be confirmation to go short, right? So old support turning into new resistance. And then the same thing would continue on the way down, right? So if we broke 350, but then we bounced at 347, right? Then, you know, what would our signal be? A bounce to 350, it rejects 350, right? So old support keeps turning into new resistance, or old support keeps turning into new resistance. That's what we've seen, right, on the downward trend, right? And you want to see that continue if you're obviously a little bit more bearish. 347 was a big support this last time around. Wouldn't be surprised to see that come again, but, you know, obviously we'll see. The next one I really want to look at, this is probably going to be, you know, one of my focuses off open. If we do see the broader overall market weakness, right, I think UPST is one of the most overextended names right now, and I think it offers a really, really nice opportunity to the downside. If we look, right, under 212 is a really, really nice short trade, just because we have a really pretty big gap from, you know, this 206 area. You know, if we can break 206, right, we may see some support here. And I did see a bid prop on level 2 on UPST. I'm not sure if it's still there. Yeah, somebody's propping the bid here. That 4,000 shares is a lot on a float of this size. How thinly it kind of trades. So I would look for a break below this level. Under 206, I really think this sees, 196 at the least, probably more like 190. So this is going to be probably my primary watch off open. If that makes sense, right? So off of open today, if we see confirmation below 206, that'll be my signal personally to take the 200 puts. I don't want to go too far out of the money because of how thinly this thing trades, just as far as limiting downside. That would obviously be if we see a more broad correction, right? So I kind of want to let things sort itself out a little bit off open. My plan is to probably grab a starter on these because I think this kind of needs to pull back anyway. Even though it already has from its highs of 220, I think that if we, like I said, see that kind of broader correction, then this will be a stock that will offer tremendous opportunity because at the very least, I think we could see 190, possibly even into the mid 180s. So I want to watch this one closely for the downside move. It doesn't really interest me on the upside move, especially with how the market is right now. So the downside move is going to be my focus here on UPST, whereas with Facebook, I don't mind playing either side because it's already down a decent amount. On a play like Facebook, my plan is to take profit off open on the puts, look at calls, and then if it breaks down further, obviously rescale into puts on a bounce. But that market action yesterday at the end of the market yesterday was no joke, right? On Apple, that was some extremely heavy selling we saw in the last 8 to 10 minutes, right? I don't know if you guys were watching, but right, so if we look at the 5 minute, I don't know why Weeble is being right. So yeah, here we go. This is a good view right here. at the end of the day yesterday, right, this is because SPY broke that key level, right? So SPX broke the 20 EMA. When you see that, you see some heavy selling come into these names, right? And you know, that last 10 minutes, right, especially that last 5-minute candle, you know, you see a big breakdown. And Apple definitely has room down. I mean, this thing is still, you know, tremendously overextended in terms of like on a weekly time frame, right? You're seeing like some tremendous overextension on the weekly. You know, really could definitely have room down to like 140 area, 142. So just need to watch that, because, you know, sometimes when you think things are pulling back, it's like, oh wait, you know, we're at all-time highs. So is it really the pullback we're looking for, or is it just, you know, next leg, right? So especially because when you look, like, this is a better view, you know, we have a lot of room down. I think Apple could definitely test this 142 support level. That would be a like add spot for calls for me, just because that's been pretty consistent support. You know, speaking in a more broad sense, if we saw a larger correction, I think you could talk about the 137 area, 132 even maybe, but that 137 would probably be a big support level, because obviously it was a huge resistance point. So you know, in a more broad sense, right, maybe not today or tomorrow or this week or next week, but in the next month or so, I think that 137 is a good, you know, likely spot for Apple to land at some point, at least to retest. It broke out huge, had a fantastic breakout, and you can tell it's just kind of how Apple goes, right? It, you know, has these major breakouts, you know, every single, you know, every few months, right? And then we get these pullbacks, and it's normal, it's healthy. It's just continuing the, you know, the broader trend up. So those are the things I want to look for, you know, in like a more broad sense. But today on Apple, I really feel like I already missed the trade. I was already in it. I was there. I was sized in the 145 puts yesterday. You know, the mRNA loss had kind of shook me a little bit. So you know, that was a moment of emotional vulnerability. That's what that was. And that's how you guys know that it's not, nobody's perfect. You know, I talk about mastering emotions all the time. And look, you know, I had an emotional lapse, and that happens, right? I got stopped out a little bit too quick. I wasn't waiting for really full confirmation, even though yesterday was nasty and the market was faking people out left and right. I got faked out, and that's okay. It happened. Those puts will probably be up like 500 to 600% this morning, and it sucks, but you know, we just have to move on and attack it's the next up mentality I talk about all the time, right, guys? It's, you know, what's the next trade? What's the next day in front of me? Because if I just stew on that, you know, it's just gonna screw me over for today, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things that we talk about is, you know, listen, if you just are focusing constantly on what happened yesterday, you're missing out on the major keys for today, right? So learn from it. Wait for confirmation next time. There's no other lesson to be learned from that, right? It's just, that's it. It's done. Now we attack the new day. And so like I mentioned, today for me is Facebook and UPST look like the two best, you know, possible short trades. I'm not there on shorting the vaccine names yet, even though they are extremely overextended, just because the vaccines have had a lot of really bullish news come out lately. So it's a little bit hard to truly fight that trend. And like I said, guys, a lot of times when you see stuff like this happen, right, like what we're seeing on you know, the SPX right now into open, right, this chart looks just like Facebook, right? And that's why, you know, do we see a bounce to 436 at open and then reject down, right? If we see a bounce to 436 at open, right, and obviously don't break it, then that would be my short signal, right, on whatever, it doesn't matter. Facebook, you could take SPY puts, whatever. Or, right, do we gap down, test our support that we formed here in pre-market, right? And on days like today, it is important to understand how SPY works. Do you gap down, touch this 434 support, and then bounce, right? Or do you like crash right through, right? If we bounce and hit that resistance off open, that would be a bearish signal for me, because that's just how usually it goes, right? You gap up off open, hit resistance, that's when the short move happens. Vice versa. You gap down, that's the morning flush, right? Everything flushes another $2, and then it's gap up, right? Nobody knows. You can only play what's in front of you. And like I said, the one way you can stress less and breathe a little bit easier is, right, you don't have to size, right? It's August, right? These market conditions are not ideal. They're tricking people left and right. Even more experienced traders are having, more trouble, right? So it's fine. Just refocus. Don't size as heavy, stress less, and you'll still be successful. Yeah, is it better to buy in the money contract? Someone asked. For me, I usually go 10% out of the money. It's a little bit cheaper. The volatility is a little bit higher. If you're learning, you could just buy slightly out of the money for a week later. They'll move at a slower pace, obviously. Be much more, much more generous, I guess, right? If it takes a move that goes against what you were thinking, it's not going to be like a 50% loss or a 40% loss. It'll be more like a 10% loss or a 20% loss, right? So that can be helpful. I learned by doing that. I would play contracts for a week out, and then eventually I got to the point where I learned weeklies. So it just depends, right? That's a good stepping stone. I would never tell someone to just like immediately start going heavy in weeklies, or just have to do what works for you. PFE. I know this is a name that a lot of people are talking about. I'm kind of really surprised by this one. We had a multi-year breakout, like talking about it hadn't broken this level since 1997. If we look, we broke a huge level, right? We're talking about massive, this was 1999, March of 1999, we saw PFE make its highs, right? March, April, I guess. And now, right, we broke out of that multi-decade breakout, I guess. And it already gave it back, which is not what you want to see. Right, if we look, that was our breakout level, right? And it's gone. Because you can tell there was a lot of resistance there. And then when we broke it, right, huge breakout, really nice setup. It's unfortunate, but gave all that back, and now we're at the 48 level again, which is crazy because for a stock that moves up so slowly, it moved down pretty quick, right? At this point now, I think there's pretty decent support in this 48-ish area, right? 48.50 is not bad. I wouldn't be surprised to see it hold, 48.5. Under 48.5, I think it probably sees 47.50. I think that those are the immediate key levels, right, to watch would be these three. Yeah, definitely. So I think that's really important. These are going to be the levels that I'm really focused on. I will be watching PFE. I was yesterday, and I'll watch it again. So we are getting a little bit of a move up here on SPY now into the open. This is kind of leaning towards that original thesis I was talking about of if we gap up, right? If we do gap up to 436, right, and reject, even that 437 area, that would offer an opportunity on Facebook puts if we gap up into the open, right? If you aren't already in. So I think it'll offer a nice opportunity on UPST. Also, big yawn, sorry guys. The one thing about UPST, and I know I talked about it being a very high confidence setup, it's been really strong, right? It's been really strong over the past few days. And it's not a coincidence that this 206 level is key, just like 350 is key. All these charts look the same, you know what I mean? So you have to rely on a little bit of what SPY does today. The SPX is definitely going to be crucial. So just understand that it's all correlation. You don't have to jump at anything off open. I would wait to see how we do retesting these levels. So 213 on UPST, 254-ish on Facebook. and it's like 350, 350 on Facebook, excuse me. And then, 212, 213 on UPST. Obviously it moves quick, so you want to see a 5-minute confirmation above that. Today is probably a day where it's a nice day to wait 5 minutes after the open. I'm not going to rush into anything super, super quickly. So yeah, I think the next catalyst for like mRNA and PFE, right, will be like booster news in terms of like, they need to see something like longer term boosters are going to be needed, right? Like we're talking, for the next 3 years, people are going to need booster shots every 6 months. Then you'll see a humongous gap up, right? Because that's just an insane amount more business for them. So. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to try to keep it simple today. I've kind of gone over the 4 that are really, really of the primary focus for me. It's 9:15. My plan now is just to kind of get ready for open. A lot of you guys were asking what I do before open. I just try to relax, and it's a good time to just sit. Remember, like, you can even say it out loud if you need to and just be like, I'm going to be disciplined today. I'm going to fight the urge to, do those things your brain wants to tell you that are wrong, right? It's sometimes just pulling yourself back, realizing that, hey, I'm in the moment. Am I in the right mindset to be trading? And if you're not, then don't, right? Because you don't want to, give back gains, and that's the whole point of this, right? Is to, better your financial situation and all those things. So, and learn how this works. It's important to understand it. So, obviously, mRNA is not going to look great off open. It happens sometimes. The 30-minute chart was extremely bullish yesterday. I'll probably keep Mislados at this point and just kind of see. But it's unfortunate, but now it's just time to attack the next day. And like I said, this is why I don't like to hold stuff overnight, guys. Even Facebook Lottos were obviously, I think, like a slam dunk in my opinion. I think they looked really, really good yesterday, especially because we were just kind of holding that 354, 355 area. So those will be nice. Hopefully that'll be a big win for everyone. That should be over 100% at least. So open interest isn't always extremely accurate, so just want to make sure that you're, obviously viewing that correctly. And if you're just using Webull, there's obviously some things that might be better to use, like Cheddar Flow or Benzinga. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna go get ready for open. We're gonna attack the open and then get it started on the day. Good luck, guys. Take it easy, team. I'll talk to you guys on the Twitter the rest of the day. Have a fantastic Thursday, guys.